welcome to Flames Unfiltered, hosted by Burud, Kyle Lewis. It has been way too long.
It's been a minute. That's what the kids say now. It's been a minute.
We gotta be cool now. We gotta be like, I'm too old for that now.
Well, hang on. I think it started when we started using the word socials.
Yeah, you know,
it was our first venture to try to be cool, and I didn't really pan out for us, but that's okay.
I've caught myself saying it a few times out in everyday public, believe it or not.
You loser. I love it.
I know.
So we should mention this at the outset because I know that when this drops, we're going to be played in, as we always are, by Booz and Tuna. And I'm going to let you take the lead on this because I fucking love these guys, and they just dropped their first album a week ago Friday, I should say. So take it away. Let's talk about Booz and Tuna for a minute.
Booz and Tuna. So this band dropped their first album, full-length album, 10 songs. 3 of them were pre-released, and we had heard, and you've been listening. If you listen to the show, you've heard them. But beyond that, I mean, they've come out with 10 songs. I thought as a whole, pretty solid, huh, Kyle?
Yeah, I've listened to it 5 or 6 times, and I already knew some of the singles. That they covered LA Guns Never Enough, which is a great tune.
That one's not on the album, actually.
No, but it's it's true to the original, but it definitely has a bit of their taste in it. So, when I first played the song Poison Ivy, I was expecting a cover of the Faster Pussycat song. But it's actually an absolutely banging original. And I'm going to read a text from my brother, if I can find it here, because I sent this to him back a little while ago. Oh, so I sent him the Instant Gratification album like on Spotify.
Yep.
And he's like, sounds right out of 1992, like a leftover 80s band, and I don't mean that in a negative way whatsoever. And it's cool because especially now there's such a big appetite for all these bands. And I know Booz and Tuna, for example, had played a series of shows with Kix, I believe.
Yes.
Which is Maryland. Like the fact that, and there's other bands that have been able to do it too. Monster Truck being one here in Canada, for example. But, they can create an album that sounds like it's from an era that like you and I both love. We talk about Van Halen and Rat and all these bands all the time. So it's really, really cool. I mean, I enjoy it start to finish. And anybody who's into the hard rock heavy metal scene from the late 70s on through to the early 90s needs to check these guys out for sure.
For sure. Check them out. Their website's Booz and Tuna Nation. You can get them on Spotify and Apple. It's good. Like I'll tell you my favorites. All right. And now I'm only about 5 times through it myself. Poison Ivy is still my favorite song. I love that.
I just love the groove, man, and the sleazy lyrics. Oh, love it.
It's good. Still Got You is a slower track that I actually like a lot.
Yeah.
Wendigo Man's good.
Yeah, that's a banger. I like that.
I'll tell you what, The Way That She Moves is a good song. I listened to that on the way home from work today. I like it. I like it top to bottom, and I highly, highly recommend it. And support these guys. These guys are just, I actually work with the drummer. He's a great, great guy, and they go out every weekend and put on shows all over the Midwest, and it's growing. It's growing for them, and it's really fun to see.
Oh man, it's a slog too. Like being a local band. Like I got some buddies who played Monoxides throughout the '90s, and they still play local shows. And they had a really, really good following. The Motor Leagues and other Moncton area bands, same thing. Like going to those local shows and supporting those bands, it's it means everything to them, right? That's how they make their name. That's how they get out there. That's how they make a real go of it, and are able to release music for everybody to enjoy. So, yeah, check them out.
And after this episode, if you hang on after the credits and everything for our podcast, I'll play the full-length video for their first single that they released, Ground and Pound. We'll have that at the end of today's episode.
Love it.
Okay. Flames Talk. Let's do Flames Talk.
Sure.
First of all, before we get to Flames Talk, we might as well keep talking. We're a little bit into the summer now.
Yes.
How is it going for you? Good summers so far?
I'm going to be honest, man. Like, I've worked really hard for a little while now on being a lot more positive, regardless of stress at work or personal circumstances or whatever. And it's amazing the difference that makes, because it's easy being in a good mood, like when the sun's shining and the weather's nice and things are going well at work and your relationship or whatever. And I mean, don't get me wrong, everything in my life is excellent. of late, but it's also about just, getting up and appreciating every day and people around you. And I got no complaints at all. The weather here has been beautiful.
I tell you what, it is. You said something there too, that like taking things for granted, and we take way too many days for granted. And man, stuff happens in life quick. Like we need to be happy. We got a lot going for us, and life's short, so let's enjoy every bit of it. But pre-summer, I call it, has been busy for me. I got a son graduating, or who did just graduate, finished up his baseball career. I got a daughter that's heavy into golf, and finally going to have some reality slow down this week, and I'm happy for that because I like routine. But
so that is to say, you're I'm going to call it here. It's been beautiful. So to me, it's already summer. Let's make the most of it. But so you're telling me, as I return the question to you, it's been good so far. I know it's been hectic because we've barely spoken, but
hectic, good, yeah. I do actually look forward to slowing down a little bit so me and you can converse a little bit more. And we got some things coming up that are going to affect this franchise with the draft coming up, and that's going to be a big factor. And then we go into free agency, and we still have a lot, as much as it is off season. We're going to have a lot to talk about coming down the stretch, and seeing what roster we put together for next year, right?
Yeah, well, that's just it. And I mean, we're already the Quebec League draft, for example, is here in Moncton this weekend.
Okay.
So that's, a big deal locally. To me, when the junior seasons conclude and these things start to happen, that's your first real sign of the off season.
Yeah.
And actually, I do want to take a moment actually to talk about something just real brief, then we'll get into the Flame stuff. So I've talked before on the show about my buddy Danny Flynn, who's an NHL scout and has a lengthy resume, for coaching a junior hockey, university level, accolades just for days. So Danny is being honored in November at a ceremony by being inducted in the Nova Scotia Sports Hall of Fame, which is, just an unbelievable honor for him, and well deserved. Danny's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life, and an absolute encyclopedia of hockey knowledge. There's some great stories. I mean, he's made a huge difference in the lives of so many junior hockey players in Canada. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a few of them, and they just beam when they talk about him, right? So I was fortunate enough to be invited to that ceremony in November, my girlfriend and I, and I can't wait to go and check it out. But yeah, it's a really, really cool honor and the guy couldn't be more deserving. So I want to give him a little bit of a shout out.
Absolutely. That's great to hear. I love stories like that where people get the recognition that they deserve, and we have a real fun night for you.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I mean, it's I'm really, really close with his entire family. Really, his wife and I chat all the time. She's a wonderful human being, one of my closest friends. So I'm really, really excited to check that out. So it's going to be great, and yeah, couldn't be more deserving.
Yeah, you'll have to definitely fill us in on that event. Kyle, if I told you Michael Stone was re-signing with the Flames on a 1-year deal, would you say yes?
Where the hell did that come from? I mean, of course I would.
I know. Just thought about it. I saw a highlight the other day of him blasting a goal from the point, and I thought, oh man.
Speaking of defensemen, I saw a highlight of Chris Chelios absolutely wrecked at a bar here in Moncton last weekend singing karaoke.
Interesting.
Well, we had the Hockey Heroes thing here, which is an annual event where a lot of NHL players coming to town, and a lot of local guys get together, and it's just a gong show. But anyway, I think Mr. Chelios had himself a time. It looked pretty great.
Speaking of defensemen, do you see former guest of the show, Hunter Buskevich, gets the All-Star? All kinds of awards for this guy coming out of juniors, and it was a fun visit with him a few episodes ago, and I can't wait. I really cannot wait for camp to get going to see where he fits into this mix.
Yeah, we chatted briefly a few weeks ago, and I'd mentioned to Hunter that obviously we want to have him back, and just wished him a great summer, and he did the same. And we sent him out some merch, which he would have been received by somebody in his camp by now. Not surprising, man. Like, what a season that guy had, right?
Super fun to watch, and after visiting with him now, it's really going to be fun to watch where his career takes him. Yeah. What else do we got? Mark Savard out as assistant coach and power play coach. I thought of you the second this came down. Where are your thoughts on this?
We talked about this at length, as the season wore on, and again revisited it after the Kuzmenko acquisition and what that meant for the power play. Obviously it didn't work, but I really believe that it didn't work because of personnel issues. The team lacked a lot of skill, especially up till Kuzmenko was acquired. So, had we had a full year of Mark Savard as power play coach with the personnel he had in the latter half of the season, I think it would have been a different story. But at the same time, I suspect there may be opportunities elsewhere. Calgary is a little ways from his home in Ontario. So I wasn't shocked, but I was certainly disappointed because I've seen what he can do with a power play, and I think we all expected a little bit more. But I mean, it wasn't in the cards last season.
I was a little surprised, but the power play was at 17.9 last year, 25th in the league. The second half, much, much better. I was comparing that to some of the other power plays in this franchise, and our best power play rank percentage wise was in 21-22 at 22.9. I'm speaking in the last decade, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Our power play really hasn't been very good for more than just last year, right?
It's been a while.
And I do think a lot of it was personnel. But you know what? I think in the coaching world and the way the league is today, it doesn't matter the personnel you have, man. You got to make it happen or you hit the road, right? And I think that's what happened here.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, and that again, that's not to default Savard necessarily at all. It's like it's a results-based business, and obviously the results weren't there. And we've talked a lot as we just did about the reasons why that was the case. But there'll be opportunity for Mark any number of places, right? So I'm curious to see who comes in to take that role, but we haven't had a great power play for a very long time, as you alluded to, and I don't know. We know how we talk all the time about how important special teams are in the NHL, and if you're not top 15 in both PK and PP, I mean, you're likely in trouble and danger of not making the playoffs. So very curious to see where that goes. Also, who they may add for personnel to try and short up over the course of the summer too.
Yeah. Martin Pospisil goes to the World Championships and leaves injured.
Went in like a wrecking ball.
Where was it? See, I don't know. I think we feel the same about the World Championships, but this angers me. I hate it when I love it when I hear that a player's not going because I hate this tournament, and that's awful to say. I do. Well, I hate it. I do.
Yeah, scheduling wise, it kind of feels like a consolation prize tournament. You could make the playoffs, you get bounced in the first round. Like, I've never been a huge fan of it, but it's more playing time. It's a different stage. I was glad he went, and he was extremely effective up until such time as he got hurt.
I didn't want him to go because I don't know how you were this year, but watching him, I was so pleased with what I was seeing. I was so deathly afraid of injury just because he's had an injury-plagued past that I just wanted him to get through this year and come into next year good. I'm thankful this has nothing to do with his frequently talked about head injuries, but it did bother me a little bit as he went into the boards, and I saw the replay of it right away on X, and I'm like, oh boy, it looks like his left arm shoulder. X-rays were negative. No dislocation of the shoulder, no fracture. It sounds like he's going to be ready to go for camp, which it definitely made me happy.
I mean, you're trying to think of the last player that truly, truly came out of left field at a training camp like Pospisil did. I think of TJ Brody back in 13, probably.
Yeah, he did really come out of nowhere that year, didn't he?
He did, and everybody else since, even Connor Zary, who was far more effective than I think anybody would have expected that early in his career. You knew he had the potential. Pospisil,
he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, nobody, I mean, especially after the injury history you just mentioned, I don't think anybody expected him to come in and make an impact. They might have thought he might get a cup of coffee. I kind of thought he might just because of his age. But man, did he assert himself.
Yeah.
It's probably a good segue, isn't it, for a little package I received the other day?
Yes, let's do that.
So, as many of you likely know, I had, Brad and I both had sent Flames Unfiltered merchandise, all around the globe, and I'd sent a few packages to Australia. one such package was sent to our buddy Nicholas Kluzik, who's in, I hope I pronounced it right, who's in South Australia. Anyway, this showed up in my mailbox yesterday. So he commissioned a drawing of Martin Pospisil. There's also a black and white version, and sent this note to me thanking Brad and I for the show, and for covering the Flames, and for sending him some merch. And this is one of the coolest things, because when I pulled a parcel out of my mailbox from Australia, I'm like I have no idea what this is. And then I think it said pictures on it. I'm like, okay, now I really have no idea what this is.
You're like, holy shit.
Yeah. So it was really, really cool. I mean, like what a cool thing, right? Like I couldn't, when I pulled, I'm like, what the hell? Like, so like I say, he commissioned this for me, and it's awesome. And I mean, and what better player to pick, right? I mean, a guy that the whole fan base fell in love with, who, had those crazy bursts of speed and those big hits, and drove all the, the other fan bases crazy. Like, it was just so much fun. This is really, really cool. I just want to say thanks again to Nicholas for sending that.
Yeah. And thank you so much, as I clear the screen up so we can all see it. Now I look at that picture, right? And you know what caught me off guard with it and made me super happy? You're probably way too young. You're not gonna know this. You see how he's kind of got it set in a hockey card?
Yeah.
Do you know what year that hockey card resembles?
I feel like I've seen it, but I don't know.
I believe it's I don't even believe it. I know it's Wayne Gretzky's rookie year. I need to look at what year that is. I'm pulling it up as we talk. I should have probably done this. But if you notice how it says, where it says Pospisil, and then where his number is, that used to be blacked out like with like a scratch off, like Powerball scratch off winning thing.
Oh, cool.
So, and you know what? I take that back. It was not Wayne Gretzky's rookie year. It was Ray Bourque's rookie card year.
Oh man, love me some Ray Bourque.
And
actually, fun fact: Ray Bourque's father lived in Moncton up till the time that he passed, and the lawyer that handled the estate is a very close friend of my family.
Okay,
yeah.
I sat next to him with the World Juniors in Grand Forks, 2000.
Oh, cool. Well, his son would have played in that, right? Was it Ryan or Chris? I think played that one. Yeah,
Chris,
nice.
Chris did. The 1980 Topps Peachy card. This is who
I was thinking of Peachy when I saw this. By the way, I was thinking of Peachy.
And where the number is there, it used to have the player's name there below it, where it says Pospisil. It had like right wing there, and it was in 1980. I was 8 years old, and that was when I collected a little bit in the late 70s, but mostly like 80 was the year I was like into it, right?
Yeah.
And my dad did a really cool thing when I was a kid. He would go to our local, like, it was called Valley Dairy. It was a gas station, right? And he'd buy a whole box of hockey cards or baseball cards, no matter whatever season it was. And he'd keep them in his work vehicle. And when he'd come home from work, he'd give me a pack of cards every day.
Yeah.
And now when he came home early, I'd open it right away. And most of the time, sometimes he would come home at, when he'd get done with work late at night, and there would be one on my pillow when I woke up in the morning. And this is the first season we collected hockey cards together. And I have that whole set. I still have it to this day. And I wish I wouldn't have scratched off all the players' names. It's the only set I remember they ever did that. But you know what? A memorable set. So that when I saw this picture that this guy had drawn, I was like taken aback, because it's like, first of all, what a Pospisil fan I became this year. And then to see it on my favorite year of hockey cards, I was like, oh, man. It was just,
that's cool.
It was perfect. But the coolest part of this is, we do this podcast because me and you love to talk Flames hockey.
Yep. True.
But when we get feedback from our listeners in a positive manner like this, it just makes your day right.
It gives us some, it does. I mean, whether it's messages or retweet, comments from people that we both know personally, like, it really does make all the difference. I mean, you try to, at the end of the day, even though you do something for fun, you still want to contribute, right? And to be able to do that, especially to give something back to a fan base that's done, like, God, so much for me over the years. Every time I've gone to Calgary, social media interactions. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the goal, right?
It is, and we love hockey, and We are very opinionated Flames fans, and we tell it like it is. And some people aren't always going to like what we say, but some people are going to like what we say, right? And all in all, we're just here because we love the Flames, and just like all the rest of the listeners, right?
Yep, 100%. That's why we do it.
So before we move on with the show, I've got 10 burning questions I want to fire at you.
Oh, man. It's been a while. I'm not sure I can handle it.
Are you ready? Are you ready, Kyle?
No, I'm not, but that should make it more entertaining. So fire away.
That's why I didn't even
lay them on me.
Huh? I didn't even tell you.
Yeah, it's a jackass move, but all right.
I got to stay true to form, right? All right.
Okay.
Number 1. When do the Calgary Flames make the playoffs again? 24, 25?
Oh, man. That is I
know. 25.
What's wrong with you?
I need to know.
Don't even give me the options. I already know what they are.
Yep.
Okay. I'm hopeful because of the returns we've seen in trades and movement so far from Craig Conroy and his staff. We'll see a return to the playoffs in 25-26.
So 1 year hiatus. One more year hiatus.
Yeah, it'd be 3.
Total 3-year hiatus.
Yeah. It takes some maneuvering. It's going to take a little bit of a renaissance for some players, like, a little bit more from Huberdeau, for example. Developmental path, that Zari and Pospisil and continue, Coronado maybe, there's a lot of things that have to happen, but I'm trying to, again, positivity.
I'm not going to disagree with you too hard on this one. I'm not.
Too hard, but you're still going to, okay.
I think 26, 27 probably is a little more realistic.
Probably, yeah. Realistic, yes, true.
But then I look at the Canucks and I would have never guessed they'd have made the playoffs this year, right?
No, but see, that also plays into the conversation recently about Buddy in Carolina. The Flames apparently are interested in acquiring Martin. How do you say that?
Natchez,
yes, Natchez. In terms of, I think Robert Munich said this on Flames Nation, in terms of acquire guys like the 2015 Flames did. Oh, we made the playoffs, so let's get Frolik and Hamilton, and we're good now.
Oh, come on. Frolik and Hamilton were older and not at the same point of their career as Martin Natchez. Martin Natchez is going to be 25 years old.
Yeah, but it depends on what he's signed to. But I think the point is that acquiring a player like that isn't conducive to the direction they're going into this point. I'm not saying I'd be unhappy about it, but I think there might be a bit of a false expectation in Calgary that they're going to be competitive much sooner than they realistically are. That's the prevailing sentiment. But again, with the parity in the league, the developmental trajectories of different players, anything is Pospisil, as I like to say.
So, holy shit, I can't.
You are welcome.
So that goes into question number 2 here. So what direction should Craig Conroy take with this team? Add and try to compete next season? Current retool that they got going, or tear it down completely?
Contract structure, you can't. This feels like rapid fire here. Yeah. Great Judas Priest song. You can't tear it down because the contracts you have. So I think you retool as much as you can.
Yeah, I would agree. But you know what? I hear so many people in this fan base wanting a complete teardown, and that's just not happening. And you know what? I saw something today. How many players on the Florida Panthers roster right now that are heading in the Stanley Cup Finals were drafted by them?
Well, you know what? Let's do this because I don't know the answer to that, but I will say Tkachuk wasn't, Reinhart wasn't, Verhaeghe wasn't.
None of their core was. 3 guys.
Ekman Larsson wasn't. Only 3. So Barkov.
I didn't even name them. I just heard the fact and I was like, oh.
Well, but see that's a little unusual, but it does speak to the ability of teams that do it intelligibly that can affect the retool.
In the cap world, it is easier to retool quicker because you can leverage the cap, right?
Yeah. But see, this is not an unusual position either because, look at Columbus. So I was talking to, again, my buddy today, works for the Blue Jackets, and Don Waddell was just named GM. So he comes from Carolina, previously been in Atlanta. He's got a lengthy resume. His job, ostensibly, is to find a way to retool that team. You got Zach Werenski, you got Johnny Gaudreau. You got some good pieces there that you should be able to build around, but you need to do it fairly soon, right? And they had a ton of injury trouble, too.
You have to do it in a 5-year timeline, right?
which is a lot more like junior hockey, which is kind of interesting, right? So we talked about that at the outset of the show. So you got to retool faster, more effectively, and be more creative in how you do it. And it's not impossible, but it is very difficult.
That's why I think, I think as a fan base, we're all pretty much, on core with what Conroy's doing. I think we just need to be patient a little bit here and see how it comes to fruition. And I don't think we should really boo-hoo anything, because I look at how many things that we thought were going to turn out good didn't, and what we thought was going to be, not a big deal turned out pretty good. So let's see what's going to happen. But that
so we're only 2 questions in. You got 10.
I get 10.
Man,
yeah. What should the Flames goalie tandem look like next season? Markstrom and Wolf, Markstrom and Vladar, Wolf, Vladar, and Wolf and somebody else.
What it should look like? Probably Wolf and Vladar, because there's still a market for Markstrom. And again, I defer to you. I want your answer on this too. So,
I'm honestly,
it's not so easy, is it, Brad?
Yeah, I don't say this too often. I'm actually pretty open to whatever. If it was Markstrom Wolf, I'd probably be happy. If it was Wolf Vladar, I'd probably be happy. But that being said, we have to. The only way I trade Markstrom is if we're going to get maximum value, and I still worry that that's probably. There's probably 3 teams realistically that are interested, right? I don't think we have as much. Jersey for sure.
Philly, maybe? I'll look at that monster now.
Nah, I don't know about Philly. I had them just the other day in my head. I even maybe had a case for maybe Edmonton, but now Skinner's been playing well. So Jersey's obviously the front runner. LA was in the conversation.
Well, LA's been doing the stopgap thing.
Yep.
Right? And that's no disrespect to Cam Talbot.
Carolina was another one that came to mind for me. Although I'm fine with Anderson myself, but I'm just sitting here looking and I think as a fan base we have his value overinflated.
Well, probably, but I think the reason that a Jersey trade is still attractive is that Jersey is a much better team than they finish in the standings, largely because of subpar goaltending. Yes. So that's a match made in heaven in a lot of ways.
It is. And if we get a decent return on that, I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't want to run the guy out of town. I really don't. I don't like the way that things went down last season either, which again is not to place blame on either party for how it went. It's just to say that, hey, if there's still a good deal to be made to free up that cap space to pivot towards your future net, I think you got to look at it. So moving on.
Are you happy with Craig Conroy's first year as general manager?
Very much so. I thought he maximized. Now, a couple things towards the end of the season, they kind of just throwing darts, like the trade with San Jose. I don't know how you couldn't be. He turned the Foley into Sharangovich, a 30-goal season. Get a monster return. Did well on the Zadorov trade. I felt did really well in the Lindholm trade. Tanev trade, the market I don't think as strong as people thought, and lo and behold, he did get injured in the playoffs yet again. And I think that was largely what made Dallas relatively ineffective against Edmonton in the latter games of that series. So I am. How do you feel about it?
I'm happy with it. I did see some pushback this week with Dallas being eliminated from the West Final. Calgary will not receive their bonus conditional 3rd rounder in 2026 on the Tanev trade. I saw people saying, well, the Flames are 0 for 3 in their trade conditions last season. I would love to see what the league record for
trade conditions
is, and I bet you the winning percentage there is under 10%. So yes, we lost a little bit on the Vegas Hannafin, we lost a little bit on the Lindholm, and we lost a little bit on the conditional wise.
But it's a gamble. You put $20 to the VLT, it's the same thing.
Those are the gambles, right? I'm not upset about losing any of those, to be honest with you, because I thought they were all bonus. I looked at them as bonuses. I think those are just bonuses, right?
Find me. I challenge anybody to do this, and I'm sure they exist, but I haven't seen any. Find me a Hockey Insider analyst fan who was not an Oilers fan who believed Edmonton was going to get through Dallas. That Tanev condition, because the Stars are so deep, was a safe bet to believe we were going to get that pick. And guess what? It didn't pan out. Big fucking deal.
No, I look at any conditions as bonuses, right? because they're long shots. To make the conference finals hard, to make the Stanley Cup final really, really hard.
That's what makes the playoffs so enjoyable.
I look at the Lindholm thing, and I'm like, how good is that still for us to this day?
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So, and we can talk for just a quick second too about the Hanifin trade. They go, they should have got more, should have this, should have that. I think Maramanov has a high ceiling. I watched him play junior here. I know people that know him. I know how he talks about his own game, his confidence. The jury's still out on that one, right? But Hanifin wasn't staying. You get what you can get. Everybody knew he wasn't staying. So a lot of people will sit there and bemoan them and say, oh, they could have got more. Or they should have traded him here instead, like Tampa Bay or whatever. It's like, didn't happen. Given the set of circumstances, given the contractual obligations, what more did you think Conroy was going to be able to do? And if you thought there was more, is it really realistic that you thought that? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. So
that's good. I haven't seen you in a while. Nice.
What's that?
I haven't seen you in a while, so that's nice. I appreciate it.
I know. Sometimes we don't get along, What are we on, dude? Question number 5.
Yes, sir.
Who was the Flames MVP last season?
Ooh, Blake Coleman. Blake Coleman or Mackenzie Weegar. Both those guys were absolute studs. Coleman cooled off a bit in the latter half of the season, third quarter-ish, if I recall correctly. Mackenzie Weegar, unreal.
I'm gonna eat crow here a little bit because I'm a harsh critic of his, and was a harsh critic of his. I am also very impressed with Nazem Kadri's here.
Great season. Yep. He'd be like my honorable mention.
Yeah.
But relative to expectations, like who saw Mackenzie Weegar scoring 20 goals? No. Who saw Blake Coleman scoring 30?
So now we need to put on the negativity hat.
No, I won't do it.
Who was the Flames' most disappointing player last season?
Okay, I'll find a way to put a positive spin on that. Most disappointing. Well, we all know the easy target.
I wrote 4 down.
Huberdeau.
Yeah, easy. That's easy. That's low-hanging fruit.
The one that really disappointed relative to what I expected, Rasmus Andersson.
Yep.
Followed by Andrew Mangiapane.
Yep.
And you have who's your fourth?
Matthew Coronado.
Oh, yeah, and I had that. I should have mentioned him because I had high hopes, but
probably not fair.
Yeah, he had a good season in the AHL too. Showed some potential in the NHL. I think he's just not quite as far along as we hoped he was. That's all.
I just thought I would see glimmers of a presence on the ice once in a while, and I didn't see that. He was
we saw it out of guys we didn't expect.
We did.
That's what I mean. Like some guys I think were ahead of the development curve, and he was a little bit behind, but still had a really strong pro season.
So that throws right into question number 7. What Flames player had the most impressive first season with the team?
Martin Pospisil. Now,
I wrote down 2 other ones.
Zari.
Yep.
Guy was an absolute stud and
he was
more skilled than even I had expected. Who else you got?
Sharon Govich, first year with the team.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I expected about what he pulled off because
did you really?
Well, I know how lethal his shot is, and he got buried in Jersey.
Yeah,
I can't tell you I was convinced he'd score 30. I expected him to score 20, 25 all day, every day.
Remember the first 3 weeks though? We were like,
adjustment period. Yeah,
he played himself to the 4th line quickly.
Yeah, well, he's trying to find his way, right?
Yep. Hey, it worked out, right? Okay, question number 8. What 25-26 pending UFA should be a top signing priority for the Flames this year? Mangiapane, Kuzmenko, Sharon Govich, Rooney, or Vladar?
Sharon Govich.
Yep.
I don't think there's.
But honestly, I would wait and see what happens. I'd sign Sharon Govich. I'd wait and see what happens with Kuzmenko, and I would let Mangiapane, Rooney, and Vladar go.
Yeah, Rooney had a rough season because of his shoulder injury, much the same as Jacob Peltier.
But I'm not disappointed he's on our team next year. 4th line center.
No, for a guy that was kind of gifted a contract that I certainly at the time had basically said I didn't. And who am I to say, but I didn't really feel he earned it. He worked on his face-offs, he worked on his foot speed. Like he really improved a lot for a guy that was predicted to be a career tweener, right? No, he did really well. But Mangiapane, I think, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, and I really do, like I feel like he might benefit from a change of scenery at this point in his career because he is very skilled. His net drive is great when he's got his game going, but it's kind of like what Blake Coleman said in his podcast interview not too long ago, right? It's like nobody expected like Gautreau and Kachuk to bail, and the things went down the way they did. Like Mangiapane is one of the pieces of like the old guard, so to speak, and he has value. So maybe he winds up elsewhere. And Kuzmenko, I mean, he's a bit of a wild card. I think he's a sell at the trade deadline because the team won't be in a playoff spot. But the guy's got mad skill. Like that game against St. Louis, he was so fun to watch.
And quite honestly, if for some reason we get to see Wolf Vladar and it works, like Vladar is a great backup, and I still believe he has some potential of possibly being a one somewhere. I don't know. Yeah,
and I think like he was hurt, right? So I don't think we get to see his best play too much last season. So there's some surprises to be had there, I think, with him.
Question number 10. Should Conroy find a way to trade up in this year's draft to solidify a solid chance at Tej Aginla? This is question 9, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the trade looks like, but I think so. I mean, the draft is really the time where a new GM puts a stamp on the team.
So I saw a mock trade today, and you know what? Both me and you think of mock trades. But if we traded our first rounder and our first rounder we're getting from Vancouver, which I believe is like 24.
Yeah.
If we traded both of those for the 5th pick to Montreal, would you be happy?
I don't know if I'd be happy. I'd be okay with it because I know it's not a particularly deep draft, or the high end skill isn't off the charts, like from 5 onwards in a lot of people's beliefs. So, it's a good way to put your stamp on the team, right?
It is, but man, would I like to see 2 first rounders this year too.
Yeah, but also we had a year where our first rounders were Klimchuk, Poirier, and who was the other one?
Wait a minute here, Mr. Negativity.
I'm not being negative, but indulge me here. Who was the other one? Klimchuk, Poirier.
I don't remember.
That's my point.
I know. Anyway. That is our draft history is not great.
Well, I think our developmental history was also a problem. But anyway, it's all good in the past. Live and learn.
Last question here. What does a successful offseason look like in Calgary?
Shedding a bit of salary and bringing in a few new faces. And basically setting yourself up for a very competitive training camp.
I'm going to tell you what I think the fan base is clamoring for. A Markstrom trade and Tej Aginla drafted. We get those 2 things, this fan base is through the roof.
Yeah, that's fair. And I like both those ideas. I mean,
I'm not against them either, but I'm just saying, like, that is.
Did you see the interview with Tej Aginla where he was asked about if he ended up in Calgary?
Yeah, I did.
He played it perfectly. I mean, he was low key. He was honest. Didn't make a big deal out of it. I mean, he's got that same professionalism that his father has, right? So, it was good to see. I'm optimistic about what he'd look like in the Flames draft cupboard.
Yeah. Well, as we finish it up today, Stanley Cup playoffs. We're down. The finals start on Saturday, which to me is.
This is I complained about the okay. Some idiot on.
This is so.
It's stupid. And somebody on X came at me because I made a comment about like a week in between. Like, oh, look, everybody, now a week is 5 days. I'm like, well, it basically is. It's a work week at least. Like, the point is.
Well, no, the last game was Saturday night, right? No.
Yeah. Was it Saturday?
Saturday night? No. Sunday night. Sunday night. So we have no hockey Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's 5 full days without hockey. That's a long time. It's very NBA-ish.
Well, and when the weather turns, and I was explaining this the other day, like when it comes to me playing hockey, I never really enjoyed summer hockey because I look forward to coming back in the fall. Yep. Summer is time to camp and drink beer and explore and soak up the sun and be on the beach and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of, unless the Flames are in it, even if they were, like even back in 2004, it's like, man, this is late, But I'm an advocate of being done by like the first week of June. I don't see a need to stretch it out. I understand the time between games.
The second week of September.
That's what everybody else is saying.
I'd rather start the second week of September and be done the 1st of June. Like done with the playoffs.
I think these guys, I mean, they're so hard on their bodies, and then, you know, they get massage therapists and medications and osteopaths and personal trainers. Like, I think they need a longer off season.
Yep.
You know, so you stretch it out a little bit, you shorten the back half of the season, because I don't want to watch hockey into the end of friggin' June.
I always think about it. Me and you are like the biggest hockey guys in the world.
Mhm.
And I on the other night, I mean, I was like, geez, we were out of town in the Badlands in the hills, and I'm like, geez, the game starts in a half hour. Do I hurry, or do we just I'll catch it what I catch when I get back? And that's not how it should be. Like I it shouldn't be that way, right? And it's not. Yes, no, I know. Okay, if Calgary was in it, I'd be ready to go, pregame show and ready to go. But, you know, Edmonton was in that game, and Edmonton to me is one of my top tier teams that I like to watch because they are a rival of the Flames.
Yeah.
And I didn't change my plans to watch that game. I did see it, but I wasn't watching it live. Right. And I look at that as, if I'm a huge hockey fan doing that, what are marginal hockey fans doing? They don't give a shit. They're not giving a shit at all.
No, I just think the league is, I mean, I don't know. I think they got to look inward a little bit and just shore this thing up a little, and it's too long, man. It's just too long.
Who do you want to win?
Who do I want to win?
Yeah.
Oh God, the 11th question. I don't hate the Oilers as much as native Calgarians do, but I'm not a fan of theirs at all. Yeah, and we've talked about that. I don't love all those former Flames in Florida winning it necessarily. I mean, I wish all those guys well, but it's like it's kind of still salt in the wound. So, I mean, honestly, I don't particularly care, but at the same time, I don't think Edmonton really deserves it. I think they get gifted so many superstar players. Like, just the way that franchise was built pisses me off because they mismanaged assets for years, and that's the biggest reason why I don't care to see them win.
I hate Edmonton, and I hate Edmonton a lot. So the only way I would be okay with Edmonton winning is if the hockey gods promised me that this would get it out of their system and they would start to fall backwards.
Yeah, but they'd still just hold that 2024 Stanley Cup banner over our heads for the rest of our lives.
Good point. Let's go Panthers. I'm there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
One thing before we go, I want to thank two guys that joined in and followed us on X this week. Broadster 5.
Great name. Love it.
Odzik Ed, thank you for joining in and following us on X.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you know what? If you can, take 2 minutes out of your life, go on to Apple Podcasts. I think Spotify, you can rate us. I don't think you can review us on Spotify. But if you can rate and review us on Apple or Spotify, take 2 minutes out of your day. Please do that. It helps us. It moves us up the ladder and rewards us for the work we do to put the show out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Appreciate all the interaction and the follows and the likes and the comments. And let's keep this thing going.
We got a few more episodes this off season got a draft preview coming up. We have a draft review. We got a NHL free agency, and then we just got a couple off-season news and preview shows to do this summer. So we're still here talking Flames hockey.
And if there's any big news, such as a possible Markstrom trade, we will jump all over as quickly as possible and you'll hear from us sooner or later.
Yeah. In the meantime, check us out at flamesunfiltered.com. And you know what? Anytime there's a question, comment, anything you want, reach out to Kyle and I via Twitter, whatever.
That be your preference.
Yeah. We love messaging and we love to hear from the fans on what you want to hear on the show. We got a lot of things planned going into next season for the show. Lots to look forward to, right?
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Well, let's let Booz and Tuna take us out, and we'll be back in a couple weeks to preview the NHL draft. Flames fans, have a good summer, and we're back in a couple weeks.
And stay positive.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.
Listen, don't call on the phone no more, but I hear she's still getting around. Cut all ties with this girl, but somehow she's still hanging around. Been all over this country, but I still find her messing around. She's just lining them up and knocking them down, feeling out that grounded pound. Ankles bleed, busted down.